jellyfish and sea jellies are the informal common name given to the medusa phase of certain gelatinous members of the subphylum Medusozoa, a major part of the phylum Cnidaria. Jellyfish are mainly free-swimming marine animals with umbrella-shaped bells and trailing tentacles, although a few are not mobile, being anchored to the seabed by stalks. The bell can pulsate to provide propulsion and highly efficient locomotion. The tentacles are armed with stinging cells and may be used to capture prey and defend against predators. Jellyfish have a complex life cycle. The medusa is normally the sexual phase. The planular larvae can disperse widely and is followed by a sedentary polyp phase. Jellyfish are found all over the world, from the surface waters to the deep sea. Cyphozoans, the true jellyfish, are exclusively marine, but some hydrozoans with a similar appearance live in fresh water. Large, often colourful jellyfish are common in coastal zones worldwide. The medusae of most species are fast growing, mature within a few months and die soon after breeding, but the polyp stage attached to the seabed may be much more long-lived. Jellyfish have been in existence for at least 500 million years, and possibly 700 million years or more, making them the oldest multi-organ animal group. Jellyfish are eaten by humans in certain cultures. They are considered a delicacy in some Asian cultures, where species in the Rhizostomae order are pressed and salted to remove excess water. They are also used in research, where the green fluorescent protein used by some species to cause bioluminescence has been adapted as a fluorescent marker for genes inserted into other cells or organisms. The stinging cells used by jellyfish to subdue their prey can also injure humans. Many thousands of swimmers are stung every year, with the effects ranging from mild discomfort to serious injury or even death. Small box jellyfish are responsible for many of these deaths. When conditions are favourable, jellyfish can form vast swarms. These can be responsible for damage to fishing gear by filling fish nets and sometimes clog the cooling systems of power and desalination plants which draw their water from the sea. Let's have a little bit of a look at the names. The name jellyfish, in use since 1796, has traditionally been applied to medusae and all similar animals, including comb jellies, ctenophores, and other phylum. The term jellies or sea jellies is more recent, having been introduced by public aquaria in an effort to avoid the use of fish, with its connotations of an animal with a backbone, though shellfish presence of citations. Now, if you want to have a look at that, just visit the Wikipedia page. And now let's have a little bit of a skip down to taxonomy. The subphylum Medusazoa includes all cnidarians with a medusa stage in their life cycle. The basic cycle is egg, planula, larva, polyp, medusa, with the medusa being the sexual stage. The polyp stage is sometimes secondarily lost. The subphylum include the major taxa, Scyphozoa, which are large jellyfish, Cubozoa, which are box jellyfish, and Hydrozoa, which are small jellyfish, and excludes Anthozoa, which are coral and sea anemones. This suggests that the medusa form evolved after the polyps. Medusazoans have tetramerous symmetry, with parts in 4 or multiples of 4. The 4 major classes of Medusazoan cnidaria are Scyphozoa, are sometimes called true jellyfish, though they are no more true jellyfish than the others listed here. They have tetraradial symmetry. Most have tentacles around the outer margin of the bowl-shaped bell, and long oral arms around the mouth in the centre of the subumbrella. The Cubozoa, the box jellyfish, have a rounded box-shaped bell, and their velarium assists them to swim more quickly. Box jellyfish may be related more closely to Scyphozoan jellyfish than either are to the Hydrozoa. On to Hydrozoa. Hydrozoa medusae also have a tetraradial symmetry. Nearly always have a velum, which is a diaphragm used in swimming, attached just inside the bell margin. Do not have oral arms, but a much smaller central stalk-like structure than a manubrium, with terminal mouth opening, and are distinguished by the absence of cells in the mesoglia. Hydrozoa show great diversity of lifestyle. Some species maintain the polyp form for their entire life and do not form medusae at all, such as the hydra, which is hence not considered a jellyfish, and a few are entirely medusal and have no polyp form. On to the Staurozoa. The stalked jellyfish are characterized by a medusa form that is generally sessile, oriented upside down with a stalk emerging from the apex of the calyx, the bell, which attaches to the substrate. At least some Staurozoa also have a polyp form that alternates with the medusazoid portion of the life cycle. Until recently, Staurozoa were classified within the Scyphozoa. There are over 200 species of Scyphozoa and about 50 species of Staurozoa, about 20 species of Cubozoa, and the Hydrozoa includes about 1,000 to 1,500 species that produce medusae, but many more species that do not. Since jellyfish have no hard parts, fossils are rare. The oldest colonurulid Scyphozoans appear between 635 and 577 million years ago in the Neo-Proterozoic of the Lantian Formation in China. Others are found in the youngest Ediacaran rocks of the Domingo Formation of Brazil, 505 million years ago, through to the Triassic. Cubozoans and Hydrozoans appeared in the Cambrian of the Meridium Formation in Utah, USA, 540 million years ago. Moving on to the anatomy of the jellyfish. The main feature of a true jellyfish is the umbrella-shaped bell. This is a hollow structure mass of transparent jelly-like matter known as mesoglea, which forms the hydrostatic skeleton of the animal. 95% or more of the mesoglea, the tissue that functions as a hydrostatic skeleton, consists of water, but it also contains collagen and other fibrous proteins, as well as wandering amoebocytes which can engulf debris and bacteria. The mesoglea is bordered by the epidermis on the outside and the gastrodermis on the inside. The edge of the bell is often divided into rounded lobes known as lappets, which allow the bell to flex. In the gaps or niches between the lappets are dangling rudimentary sense organs known as ropalia, and the margin of the bell often wears tentacles. On the underside of the bell is the manubrium, a stalk-like structure hanging down from the centre, with the mouth, which also functions as the anus, at its tip. There are often 4 oral arms connected to the manubrium, streaming away into the water below. The mouth opens into the gastrovascular cavity, where digestion takes place and nutrients are absorbed. This is subdivided by 4 thick septa into a central stomach and 4 gastric pockets. The 4 pairs of gonads are attached to the septa, and close to them 4 septal funnels open to the exterior, perhaps supplying good oxygenation to the gonads. Near the free edges of the septa, gastric filaments extend into the gastric cavity. These are armed with nematocysts and enzyme-producing cells that play a role in subduing and digesting the prey. In some cyphozoans, the gastric cavity is joined to radial canals, which branch extensively and may join in a marginal ring canal. Cilia in these canals circulate the fluid in a regular direction. The box jellyfish is largely similar in structure. It has a squarish box-like bell. A short pedalium or stalk hangs from each of the 4 lower corners. 1 or more long, slender tentacles are attached to each pedalium. The rim of the bell is folded inwards to form a shelf known as a velarium, which restricts the bell's aperture and creates a powerful jet when the bell pulsates, allowing box jellyfish to swim faster than true jellyfish. Hydrozoans are also similar, usually with just 4 tentacles at the edge of the bell. Although many hydrozoans are colonial and may not have a free living medusal stage, in some species a non-detachable bud known as a gonophore is formed that contains a gonad but is missing many of the other medusal features such as tentacles and ropalia. Stalked jellyfish are attached to a solid surface by a basal disc and resemble a polyp, the oral end of which has partially developed into a medusa with tentacle-bearing lobes and a central manubrium with 4-sided mouth. Most jellyfish do not have specialized systems for osmoregulation, respiration, and circulation, and do not have a central nervous system. Nematocysts, which deliver the sting, are located mostly on the tentacles. True jellyfish also have them around the mouth and stomach. Jellyfish do not need a respiratory system because sufficient oxygen diffuses through the epidermis. They have a limited control over their movement but can navigate with the pulsations of the bell-like body. Some species are active swimmers most of the time, while others largely drift. The ropalia contain rudimentary sense organs which are able to detect light, waterborne vibrations, odour, a central nervous system. Nerve net concentration and ganglion-like structures could be considered to constitute one in most species. A jellyfish detects stimuli and transmits impulses both throughout the nerve net and around a circular nerve ring to other nerve cells. The rhopalial ganglia contain pacemaker neurons which control swimming rate and direction. In many species of jellyfish, the rhopalia include ocelli, light-sensitive organs, are able to tell light from dark. These are generally pigment spot ocelli, which have some of their cells pigmented. The rhopalia are suspended on stalks with heavy crystals at one end acting like gyroscopes to orient the eyes skyward. Certain jellyfish look upward at the mangrove canopy, while making a daily migration from mangrove swamps into the open lagoon, where they feed, and back again. Box jellyfish have more advanced vision than the other groups. Each individual has 24 eyes, 2 of which are capable of seeing colour, and 4 parallel information processing areas that act in competition, supposedly making them one of the few kinds of animal to have a 360-degree view of its environment. Really weird. Imagine having a 360-degree view of my environment. Jellyfish range from about 1 millimeter in bell height and diameter to nearly 2 meters, which is 7 feet, in bell height and diameter. The tentacles and mouth parts usually extend beyond this bell dimension. The smallest jellyfish are the peculiar creeping jellyfish in the genera Stockoladia and Eleutheria, which have bell discs from 0.5 millimeters, which is 1/32 of an inch, to a few millimeters in diameter, with short tentacles that extend out beyond this, which these jellyfish use to move across the surface of seaweed or the bottoms of rocky pools. Many of these tiny creeping jellyfish cannot be seen in the field without a hand lens or microscope, but they can reproduce asexually by fission, splitting in half. Other very small jellyfish which have bells about 1 millimeter are the hydromedusae of many species that have been released from their parent polyps. Some of these live only a few minutes before shedding their gametes in the plankton and then dying, while others will grow into plankton for weeks or months. The hydromedusae Cladomina radiatum and Cladomina californicum are also very small, living for months, yet never growing beyond a few millimeters in height and diameter. The lion's mane jellyfish, Cyanea capillata, was long cited as the largest jellyfish and arguably the longest animal in the world, with fine thread-like tentacles that may extend up to 36.5 meters, which is 119 feet 9 inches long, though most are nowhere near that long. They have a moderately painful but rarely fatal sting. The increasingly common giant Nomura's jellyfish, Nemo pilema nomurae, found in some but not all years in the waters of Japan, Korea and China in summer and autumn, is another candidate for largest jellyfish in terms of diameter and weight, since the largest numerous jellyfish in late autumn can reach 2 meters, which is 6 feet in bell body diameter, and about 200 kilograms, which is 440 pounds in weight, with average specimens frequently reaching 0.9 meters, which is 2 feet 11 inches in bell diameter, and about 150 kilograms, which is 330 pounds in weight. The large bell mass of the giant jellyfish are either usually male or female, with occasional hermaphrodites. In most cases, adults release sperm and eggs into the surrounding water, where the unprotected eggs are fertilized and develop into larvae. In a few species, the sperm swim into the female's mouth, fertilizing the eggs within her body, where they remain during early development stages. In moon jellies, the eggs lodge into pits on the oral arms, which they form a temporary brood chamber for the developing planula larvae. The planula is a small larva covered with cilia. When sufficiently developed, it settles onto a firm surface and develops into a polyp. The polyp generally consists of a small stalk topped by a mouth that is ringed by the upward-facing tentacles. The polyps resemble those of closely related anthozoans, such as sea anemones and corals. The jellyfish polyp may be sessile, living on the bottom, boat hulls or other substrates, or it may be free-floating or attached to tiny bits of free-living plankton, or rarely fish, or other invertebrates. Polyps may be solitary or colonial. Most polyps are only millimeters in diameter and feed continuously. The polyp stage may last for years. After an interval and stimulated by seasonal or hormonal changes, the polyp may begin reproducing asexually by budding, and in the Scyphozoa is called a segmenting polyp or a scyphistoma. Budding produces more scyphistomae and also ephrae. Budding sites vary by species, from the tentacle bulbs, the manubrium above the mouth, or the gonads of the hydromedusae. In a process known as strobilation, the polyp's tentacles are reabsorbed and the body starts to narrow, forming transverse constrictions in several places near the upper extremity of the polyp. These deepen as the constriction sites migrate down the body and separate segments known as the ephra detach. These are free-swimming precursors of the adult medusa stage, which is the life stage that is typically identified as a jellyfish. The ephrae, usually only a millimeter or two across initially, swim away from the polyp and grow. Limnomedusae polyps can asexually produce a creeping frustule larvae form, which crawls away before developing into another polyp. A few species can produce new medusae by budding directly from the medusant stage. Some hydromedusae reproduce by fission. Onto the lifespan. Little is known of the life histories of many jellyfish, as the places on the seabed where the bathic forms of those species live have not been found. However, an asexually reproducing strobilar form can sometimes live for several years, producing new medusae, ephra larvae, each year. An unusual species, Torridopsis torini, formerly classified as Toropiosis nutricula, might be effectively immortal because of its ability under certain circumstances to transform from medusa back to the polyp stage, thereby escaping death that typically awaits medusae post-reproduction if they have not otherwise been eaten by some other organism. So far, this reversal has been observed only in the laboratory. Onto locomotion. Using the moon jelly Aurelia aurita as an example, population. Other species of jellyfish are among the most common and important jellyfish predators. Sea anemones may eat jellyfish that drift into their range. Other predators include tunas, sharks, swordfish, sea turtles, and penguins. Jellyfish washed up on the beach are consumed by foxes, other terrestrial mammals, and birds. In general, however, there are few animals preying on jellyfish. Jellyfish can be broadly considered to be top predators in the food chain. Once jellyfish have become dominant in an ecosystem, for example through overfishing which removes predators of jellyfish larvae, there may be no obvious way for the previous balance to be restored. They eat fish eggs and juvenile fish, and compete with fish for food, preventing fish stocks from recovering. Symbiosis. Some small fish are immune to the stings of the jellyfish and live among the tentacles, serving as bait in a fish trap. They are safe from potential predators and are able to share in the fish caught by the jellyfish. The cannonball jellyfish has a symbiotic relationship with 10 different species of fish, and with the long-nosed spider crab, which lives inside the bell, sharing the jellyfish's food and nibbling its tissues. Onto blooms. Jellyfish form large masses or blooms in certain environmental conditions of ocean currents, nutrients, sunshine, temperature, season, prey availability, reduced predation, and oxygen concentration. Currents collect jellyfish together, especially in years with unusually high populations. Jellyfish can detect marine currents and swim against the current to congregate in blooms. Jellyfish are better able to survive in nutrient-rich, oxygen-poor water than competitors, and thus can feast on plankton without competition. Jellyfish may also benefit from the saltier waters, as salter water contains more iodine, which is necessary for polyps to turn into jellyfish. Rising sea temperatures caused by climate change may also contribute to jellyfish blooms because many species of jellyfish are able to survive in warmer waters. Increased nutrients from agricultural or urban runoff, with nutrients including nitrogen and phosphorus compounds, increase the growth of phytoplankton, causing eutrophication and algal blooms. When the phytoplankton die, they may create dead zones, so called because they are aphoxic, low in oxygen. This in turn kills fish and other animals, but not jellyfish, allowing them to bloom. Jellyfish populations may be expanding globally as a result of land runoff and overfishing of their natural predators. Jellyfish are well placed to benefit from disturbance of marine ecosystems. They reproduce rapidly. They prey upon many species, while few species prey on them, and they feed via touch rather than visually, so they can feed effectively at night and in turbid waters. It may be difficult for fish stocks to re-establish themselves in marine ecosystems once they have become dominated by jellyfish, because jellyfish feed on plankton, which includes fish eggs and larvae. Some jellyfish populations that have shown clear increases in the past few decades are invasive species, newly arrived from other habitats. Examples include the Black Sea, Caspian Sea, Baltic Sea, Central and Eastern Mediterranean, Hawaii, and tropical and subtropical parts of the West Atlantic, including the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, and Brazil. Jellyfish blooms can have a significant impact in community structure. Some carnivorous jellyfish species prey on zooplankton, while others graze on primary producers. Reductions in zooplankton and ichthyoplankton due to jellyfish bloom can ripple through the trophic levels. High-density jellyfish populations can outcompete other predators and reduce fish recruitment layers, allowing them to assimilate inorganic carbon, phosphorus and nitrogen, creating competition for phytoplankton. Their large biomass makes them an important source of dissolved and particulate organic matter for microbial communities through excretion, mucus production and decomposition. The microbes break down the organic matter into inorganic ammonium and phosphate. However, the low carbon availability shifts the process from production to respiration, creating low oxygen areas, making the dissolved inorganic nitrogen and phosphorus largely unavailable for primary production. These blooms have very real impacts on industries. Jellyfish can outcompete fish by utilizing open niches in overfished fisheries. Catch of jellyfish can strain fishing gear and lead to expenses relating to damaged gear. Power plants have had to be shut down due to jellyfish blocking the flow of cooling water. Blooms have also been harmful for tourism, causing a rise in stings and sometimes the closure of beaches. Jellyfish form a component of jellyfalls, events where gelatinous zooplankton fall to the seafloor, providing food for the benthic organism there. In temperate and subpolar regions, jellyfalls usually flow immediately after a bloom. Onto habitats. Most jellyfish are marine animals, although a few hydromedusae inhabit fresh water. The best known freshwater example is the cosmopolitan hydrozoan jellyfish, the Craspecutus zoerbi. It is less than an inch, which is 2.5 centimeters, in diameter, colorless, and does not sting. Some jellyfish populations have become restricted to coastal saltwater lakes, such as Jellyfish Lake in Palau. Jellyfish Lake is a marine lake where millions of golden jellyfish, Magasteus spp, migrate horizontally across the lake daily. Although most jellyfish live well on the ocean floor and form part of the plankton, a few species are closely associated with the bottom for much of their lives and can be considered benthic. The upside-down jellyfish in the genus Casopia typically lie on the bottom of the shallow lagoons, where they sometimes pulsate gently with their umbrella top facing down. Even some deep-sea species of Hydromedusae and Scyphomedusae are usually collected on or near the bottom. All of the Storomedusae are found attached to either seaweed or rocky or other firm material on the bottom. Some species explicitly adapt to tidal flux. In Roscoe Bay, jellyfish ride the current at EBB tide until they hit a gravel bar, and then descend below the current. They remain in still waters until the tide rises, ascending and allowing it to sweep them back into the bay. They also actively avoid fresh water from mountain snowmelt, driving until they find enough salt. And on to jellyfish as parasites. Jellyfish are hosts to a wide variety of parasitic organisms. They act as intermediate hosts of endoparasitic helminths, with the infection being transferred to the definitive host fish after predation. Some Diogenian trimidotes, especially species in the family Leprocridiae, use jellyfish as their second intermediate hosts. Fish become infected by the trimidotes when they feed on infected jellyfish. Finally, on to relations with humans. Fisheries. Fisheries have become harvesting the American cannonball jellyfish, Stomolophus meligerus, along the southern Atlantic coast of the United States and in the Gulf of Mexico for exports to Asia. Jellyfish are also harvested for their collagen, which is being investigated for use in a variety of applications, including the treatment of rheumatoid arthritis. What products use jellyfish? rhizostomes, especially Robiliema esculatum in China, which means sea stingers in Chinese, and Stomolophus meleagris cannonball jellyfish in the United States are favoured because of their larger and more rigid bodies and because their toxins are harmless to humans. Traditional processing methods carried out by a jellyfish master involve a 20 to 40 day multi-phase procedure in which, after removing the gonads and mucous membranes, the umbrella and oral arms are treated with a mixture of table salt and alum and compressed. Processing makes the jellyfish drier and more acidic, producing a crispy texture. Jellyfish prepared in this way retain 7 to 10% of their original weight, and the processed product consists of approximately 94% water and 6% protein. Freshly processed jellyfish has a white, creamy colour and turns yellow or brown during prolonged storage. In China, processed jellyfish are desalted by soaking in water overnight and eaten cooked or raw. The dish is often served shredded with a dressing of oil, soy sauce, vinegar, and sugar, or salad with vegetables. In Japan, cured jellyfish are rinsed, cut into strips, and served with vinegar as an appetizer. Desalted, ready-to-eat products are also available. I am not sure if I've eaten jellyfish, but that definitely sounds interesting. Biotechnology. Pliny the Elder. Wow, I'm loving all of the historical references. Pliny the Elder reported in his Natural History that the slime of the jellyfish, Plumo marinus, produced light when rubbed on a walking stick. In 1961, Osamu Shimomura extracted green fluorescent protein GFP and other bioluminescent protein called Aquarium from the large and abundant hydromedusa Aquaria victoria while studying photoproteins that cause bioluminescence in this species. 3 decades later, Douglas Brashear sequenced and cloned the gene for GFP. Martin Shelfie figured out how to use GFP as a fluorescent marker of genes inserted into other cells or organisms, and Roger Tsien later chemically manipulated GFP to produce other fluorescent colors to use as markers. In 2008, Shimomura, Shelfie, and Tsien won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for their work with GFP. Awesome. Man-made GFP became widely used as a fluorescent tag to show which cells or tissues express specific genes. The genetic engineering technique fuses the gene of interest to the GFP gene. The fused DNA is then put into a cell to generate either a cell line or, via IVF techniques, an entire animal bearing the gene. In the cell or animal, the artificial gene turns on in the same tissues at the same time as the normal gene, making GFP instead of the normal protein. Illuminating the animal or cell reveals what tissue expresses the protein, or at what stage of development. The fluorescence shown where the gene is expressed. Onto aquarium display. Jellyfish are displayed in many public aquariums. Often the tank's background is blue and the animals are illuminated by light, increasing the contrast between the animal and the background. In natural conditions, many jellies are so transparent that they are nearly invisible. Jellyfish are not adapted to closed spaces. They depend on currents to transport them from place to place. Professional exhibits, as in the Monterey Bay Aquarium, feature precise water flows, typically in circular tanks, to avoid trapping specimens in corners. They have a live As of 2009, jellyfish were becoming popular in home aquariums, where they require similar equipment. I've always wanted one of those epic giant jellyfish displays where they're illuminated. Would be very cool. Onto stings. Jellyfish are armed with nematocysts. Contact with a jellyfish tentacle can trigger millions of nematocysts to pierce the skin and inject venom. But only some species' venom causes an adverse reaction in humans. In a study published in Communications Biology, researchers found a jellyfish species called Cassiopeia zamantia, which when triggered will release tiny balls of cells that swim around the jellyfish, stinging everything in their path. Researchers described these as self-propelling microscopic grenades and named them casiosomes. The effects of stings range from mild discomfort to extreme pain and death. Most jellyfish stings are not deadly, but stings of some box jellyfish, irukandji jellyfish, such as the sea wasp, can be deadly. Stings may cause anaphylaxis, a form of shock, which can be fatal. Jellyfish kill 20 to 40 people a year in the Philippines alone. In 2006, the Spanish Red Cross treated 19,000 stung swimmers along the Costa Brava. Vinegar, 3 to 10% aqueous acetic acid, may help with box jellyfish stings, but not the stings of the Portuguese man of war. Salt water may help if vinegar is unavailable. Rubbing wounds or using alcohol, ammonia, fresh water or urine is not advised, as they can encourage the release of more venom. Don't pee on it. Clearing the area of jelly and tentacles reduces nematocyst firing, so get the jelly parts out. Put salt water or vinegar on. Scraping the affected skin, such as with the edge of a credit card, may remove remaining nematocysts. Get your credit card out, scrape it. Once the skin has been cleaned of nematocysts, hydrocortisone cream applied locally reduces pain and inflammation. Antihistamines may help to control itching. Immuno-based antivenoms are used for serious box jellyfish stings. Another example of a great animal that we have here in lovely Australia. And onto mechanical issues. Jellyfish in large quantities can fill and split fishing nets and crush captured fish. They can clog cooling equipment, disabling power stations in several countries. Jellyfish caused a cascading blackout in the Philippines in 1999, as well as damaging the Diablo Canyon power plant in California in 2008. They can stop desalination plants and ships' engines. Wow, jellyfish are a bit badass, to be honest. Well, that was a bit long, but it was awesome. There was so much interesting stuff in that one. Thank you to whoever suggested it. If you want to suggest anything, just please leave a comment. If you're still here after this super long video, I would love to invite you to like the video and comment down below so I can talk to you and meet you personally. I respond to every comment that I get. And subscribe, of course, to the channel. I know this is cringy YouTuber stuff, but research does show if you ask regularly, you do get more engagement with your audience, which is what I love. So, yeah. Thank you so much for watching. All of that stuff at the end about how to treat jellyfish was super interesting. And how massive the man of war and the lion's mane. Insane. That really freaks me out, to be honest. If I was diving into the ocean and then I saw a jellyfish that was that massive, I mean, that's like the most terrifying thing I can imagine. Being sucked up inside a jellyfish. Oh. If any of you have thalassophobia, fear of the ocean